Lawmakers descended for a second round of debates, opposition leaders poised to question the ANC's policies and the president's management. Parliament's corridors hummed with harsh speculation as reporters gathered outside, desperate to get even a whiff of what could happen. There was a sense of tension in the air, a palpable feeling that something earth-shattering was about to occur. The air was electric, the sense being that all present realized today's session had the potential to go down in history. As John Steenhuisen rose to address the floor, all were anticipating his characteristic stinging rhetoric. Famous for his venomous denunciations and combative oratory, Stein had made a name for being able to shake the benches of the ANC. This time, however, what transpired was so much more than the typical parliamentary jousting. Rather than his usual jabs at the inefficiency or corruption of government, legislators were treated to a blistering, frank, and unflinching assault on the current president himself, a charge so daring that even seasoned political journalists shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Clutching a copy of the Constitution in one hand and a fat folder of papers in the other, Steenhuisen made an instant pronouncement that President Sir Ramaphosa had overstepped a line that no South African president should ever have. Steenhuisen accused Ramaphosa of breaking the very constitution he took an oath to defend. Here we are seeing a president, Steiner started, his tone firm but calm, who believes himself to be above the law. He had a pause, allowing the impact of his words to be digested before continuing. But I stand here today not as a leader of the opposition but as a South African citizen bound by a responsibility to defend our democracy. You, Mr. Ramaphosa, have broken constitutional law. The chamber burst into flames immediately. Gasps and whispers ran in waves down the benches, interspersed with outright laughter from some of the ANC members who scoffed at the accusations as political theatre. Others yelled furiously across the aisle, their voices loud above the commotion. The speaker grappled to keep order, thumping the gavel again and again, but Steenhuisen did not budge. He stood firm among the mayhem, his face unyielding. Steenhuisen's speech was not based on sweeping allegations on claims supported by leaked internal memos, legal advice, and top-secret briefings. These documents, he asserted, indicated a series of executive rulings and covert activities that circumvented Parliament and eroded constitutional scrutiny. The manner in which he produced them, holding up the heavy file and wafting single pages in front of the cameras, lent credence to his assertions. The most grave of these charges revolved around Ramaphosa's role in clandestine fiscal decisions, unauthorized security actions related to the much-criticized failure scandal, and the stifling of Chapter 9 institution reports, independent institutions designed to hold the government accountable. Steenhuisen accused the president of not only withholding key information from Parliament, but also employing state machinery to advance his personal and political agenda. In doing so, he contended, the president had violated the doctrine of separation of powers and Chapter 5 and 9 of the Constitution. The effect was instant. The ANC benches, often orderly in their defense of their leader, seemed momentarily shaken. Some took frantic glances through their own papers or texted aides on their mobile phones. Reporters in the corridors hurried to send messages to their editors. The nation's political elite, already on tenterhooks from weeks of speculation over intra-party tensions, were now faced with charges that threatened to destabilize the country's highest office. What distinguished the speech from another in a long line of opposition criticism was the tone of urgency in Steenhuisen's voice. This wasn't political posturing. This was, he cautioned, a constitutional crisis in the process of unfolding. His voice had a note of gravity that wasn't often heard in parliamentary debate. And as Steenhuisen spoke, all eyes fixed on President Ramaphosa. The president was stone-faced, arms crossed, barely blinking. His silence was deafening, implying a man either calculating to the point of secretiveness or deeply disturbed. When Ramaphosa finally reacted, his defense was firm but measured. He outright denied all the allegations, labeling them a desperate ploy to distract from the real work being done by this government. He implicated Steinhuisen and his party in attempting to create a crisis where none was, claiming that the allegations were nothing but an opportunistic attempt at political relevance. But even as he was talking, the tension in the room was still present, and it was evident to everyone that Steenhuisen had hit a nerve. ANC members ran around. Some yelled over the opposition, trying to drown out Steenhuisen's arguments, while others whispered frantically among themselves. The speaker, tired of patience, was compelled to adjourn proceedings for 10 minutes in the hope of restoring discipline. Outside, TV cameras filmed opposition MP in peace confidently delivering interviews, presenting the moment as a watershed for the nation. When the session continued, Steenhuisen went on. "This has nothing to do with the DA. This has nothing to do with party politics," he stated, his voice measured but firm. "This has everything to do with our democracy. If the president of this nation can disregard the constitution, then what is left that divides us from the authoritarian governments we struggle so desperately to leave behind?" His words resonated through the hall, weighing heavily on the supporters and critics alike. While denying any misdeed, President Ramaphosa was confronted by Steenhuisen, who promised to chase the issue aggressively. He demanded a comprehensive parliamentary investigation, one that would incorporate independent legal specialists, constitutional experts, and possibly even foreign observers to guarantee fairness. He warned that the credibility of South Africa's democratic institutions was under threat and that doing nothing would undermine trust in government. The DA, Steenhuisen says, is also set to make a motion that would have the president appear before a public inquiry on the alleged violations. The step, if it succeeds, could have Ramaphosa testify under oath, a development that would certainly ramp up political heat. More importantly, Steenhuisen suggested that legal action outside Parliament was possible. He implied that the DA was weighing whether to take matters directly to the Constitutional Court to establish clarity regarding the president's actions and whether any of them were a serious enough breach to justify removal from office. That action would be new in South Africa's contemporary democracy and would have the potential to establish a strong legal precedent. Thank you for watching today's episode. If you enjoyed this coverage and feel we should hold our leaders accountable, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this video with as many people as possible. The truth has to be heard. And as always, comment below with your thoughts. Let's hear from you. Is this the beginning of the end for Ramaphosa or just a political stunt? Stay alert, stay educated, and stay awake.